Welcome to the Outlaws Podcast. This is Ryan, and I'm going to phone Drew here in just a second. We're going to give you a little bit of our thoughts about the upcoming draft that is about 12 days away, so I'm going to call Drew right now. Hang tight. Yeah, I'm just making sure this picked up all right.
Scott Storage and U-Haul, this is Drew.
Hey, Drew, it's Ryan. You're on the podcast.
Oh, get out of here.
Yeah. How are you doing?
I'm not expecting that.
We're less than 2 weeks away. I think it's time we do another podcast. It's been a while. And I was just wondering if you've done any mocks yet.
Well, if you would look at my notes, you
All right,
would see
so
that
I'll try to get this up and posted.
Color commentator. You think it was all right? One
Yeah.
Hastenish post.
Your voice is picking up pretty well. I mean, as good as you can think for coming through the phone. I would say that you probably need to do some, but seeing how your football auction draft went from last season, you actually did a lot better than normal. So maybe the less experience in the mock drafts is the way to go for you.
It's possible. It didn't exactly result in a playoff appearance for me, but y'all seem to respect my draft a little more than previous years.
Yeah, a little more. So I wanted to call you and talk about your draft strategy, but I guess it's kind of be hard to get into since you haven't done any auctions yet. But just wondering on a few players, guys like that are bounce back candidates like Ryan Braun, Albert Pujols, Matt Kemp. Those have been guys in the past that you've really targeted. It seemed like they're normally a little bit older than those guys, but could you see yourself going after those three players or guys that fit that same criteria, coming off a bad year and looking that they could, if they could meet their expectations from 2 or 3 years ago, they could lead you to the title?
Oh, sure, yeah, absolutely. Now, I'm hesitant to get too much into it because usually this comes back to burn me on draft night because the guys that I'm interested in more than others. But I'll go ahead and throw it out there. To me, I'm interested in Braun first and foremost, and then there's a drop off, and then I'm interested in Pujols, and then there's a big drop off, and then I got Kemp. I think I might have my number 2 and number 3 backwards with what the regular rankings might say, but that's how I view those guys.
So you said you had Braun at the top of the list. Do you have any concerns about maybe some lack of production coming up for this season because he's off the roids, or do you think that's not that big of a deal?
I don't think so. I mean, I haven't checked into all his spring training stats, but I know he hit a homer on like the second pitch he saw of spring training, and hopefully the effects of the roids will stick with him for a year or two before he starts to wear down. I'm not that worried about Braun, and if everyone else is going to be worried, well, I'll be more than happy to jump in there and take him out of their scout.
Maybe I don't understand how the steroids works exactly, but I always kind of felt like that was a little bit overblown about the lack of production when they come back. I mean, they still got the benefits of getting stronger and when they're working out when they were on the roids, and that's how they got big in the first place. It's not like they're all of a sudden going to lose all that muscle that they've put on, and I mean they've already reaped the benefits of being able to add the muscle. They're just maybe it's the recovery. I don't quite understand the argument, I guess.
Yeah, I mean I could see it over maybe like a 5-10 year period, but just being 1 year removed from taking steroids, I mean I just don't see how Braun could have lost that much power. And Braun never was a big bulky guy like Dwyer, so I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, you still have to have the abilities and the mindset to be able to hit those pitches. And like if I take steroids today and take it for 10 years, I'm not going to become a major leaguer. So I still believe in Braun's skills. He's going. I mean, I'm seeing an O rank of 12. I think he should be in the top 10.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you there. Another guy that got banned for the steroids last year, we'll talk about a couple of them just to see if you have any differing opinions or you kind of think they're going to be what they were last year. What do you think about each of these two guys, Nelson Cruz and Bartolo Colon, who's now on the Mets and Cruz is on the Orioles?
I'm more excited about Cruz. I like Cruz on the Orioles. Obviously he's still on an American League team, so he can have some days where he bats, DH, so he'd have fewer off days than if he was on a National League team. But, Cruz was, I guess he wasn't stupendous last year, but he was solid.
No, he was
Cologne,
actually I had him on my team before he got suspended, and I think he had like 26 home runs already, and that was a couple
yeah,
months to go left in the season. He was on track to get in the upper 30s.
yeah. With Cruz, I would still be more worried about his injury history than the fact that he's off the juice now. I think
Yeah.
the injury history comes first and foremost. And then when you talk Cologne, I mean, we're just talking a big fluke here. I mean, this guy, I don't know what happened last year. He was amazing, but and he was actually pretty solid a year or 2 years before that. But I just, I mean, he's $1, $2.
Oh, really? You think he's at? See, I was gonna ask you an over under on like $5 if he was the first nomination of the draft. What would you do? You're saying under.
It's under. I just don't like those guys that, I mean, all he does is throw fastballs, and they're not really even that fast. So I'm not really, I mean, I kind of like Cologne just because, the big gut and everything, and gives inspiration to other guys with guts. But I don't, I'm not a big believer. I wouldn't want to have to count on his production after draft night.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Just to get back on the draft strategy talk, are there any positions that you're targeting on draft day in particular, just because you see the talent levels there so deep and you want to make sure you get one of the top guys?
Not really. I used to think it was such a big deal to get one of the top shortstops.
Mm-hmm.
And in years past, it was always, I got to get Hanley, I got to get Tulo. Well, those guys get hurt so often now that, to me, they're not all the same. But I'm not going to treat shortstop or second base different than any other position. One thing I certainly won't worry about is outfield. I did get burned last year because I didn't take a good first baseman, and I think I ended up having to roll with Adam Dunn all year, who was pretty solid.
Well, let's be honest. First base was just one of many concerns you had offensively.
Yeah, I guess I shouldn't be nailing it down to just first base, but I'll probably try to make sure I get a top 5 first baseman. But there's not a particular.
No, last year you were willing to go big on Buster Posey, and I know a lot of that had to do with him going for about $8 to $10 less than what he was projected for. Can you see yourself going after a catcher, or did that strategy just burn you so much last year that you're willing to wait?
The thing about catcher is he's right there. He's at the top of your page. The first name you see kind of sets the whole tone for your My Team page when you go on there. So I usually like to have a pretty good name up there, but after last year, and luckily Posey's fallen down from where he was as far as a draft projection from last year. But ideally, I'd like to have a Posey, a Mauer on my team, but I'm not nearly as concerned with that as I was last year. Catcher's just so deep, and you got guys like Jonathan LaCroix that Brad picked up last year who just tore it up for a stretch. And so when you see how deep that position can be, I'm not really concerned about getting one of the top guys. Yeah,
when you consider that Brad had John Buck for April and then picked up LaCroix, he probably had the best catcher throughout the entire season.
Man, Buck had a monster week against me. Yeah, I'll never forget that. That was brutal. Yeah, you're right. Brad, yeah, he knew what he was doing as far as the catcher position last year. Strange.
Yeah, I actually drafted Jonathan LaCroix, and I cut him after he started off real slow, so it burned me. So I look at starting pitching this year, and it looks a little bit deeper than it has in years past. But my question is this: it looks like pitching has just gotten a lot better over the last couple of years. What used to be a 125 whip used to be pretty good, and now it's probably middle of the pack now. Do you think it's deeper than normal, or do you think that you still have to grab one of those top guys because there's a new level for what's good, and it's not the 125 whip anymore? It's more like a 118 whip or something like that.
Yeah, it is tough. It's kind of a weird thing to say, but I went for guys that were at the higher end of the draft projections last year, and as we all know, I had I came in 9th or 10th place in ERA and WHIP on the category for the year. So, you never can necessarily count on that. But yes, the pitching is deeper, but I still think you want to get some of the top guys. No, I can certainly understand waiting, and I'll be interested to see if Nick goes with one of those no closer approaches. Will that be able to lend him to a strategy where he's able to get high quality guys, or will he just get a bunch of medium?
Yeah, that's interesting. So I was actually thinking, last year I waited till the very end to get relievers, and it burned me. I didn't get. I think I ended up having Mitchell Boggs and Jose Veras as my two closers after draft day. So I think this year I'm either gonna go with the Nick strategy. If the guys are going for more than I want to pay, then I'm just gonna go all starting pitchers and try to pick up closers throughout the season.
Right.
So I might be doing that because I've done a few of these mock drafts, and it's crazy how much some of these closers are going for. Guys like Greg Holland and Kenley Jansen are going for over $15, and there's no way. Yeah, there's no way I'm going that. I'm not going double digits on any closer. So.
I can understand why Kimbrel would go for double digits.
Yeah.
I still don't. I don't want to be that guy.
And see, and Kimbrel and Chapman are even going for over 20 in most of the ones that I've done, which is I'd rather have an ace than have a closer for $20.
Oh, definitely. There's definitely a safety net that you feel when they're up there. You know they're not going to absolutely kill you, but that's a pretty hefty price.
So I'm gonna
pay for that.
Yeah.
Just let me say something about the depth of starting pitchers. Yes, it is deep when we look at it now, but the real depth of the position isn't going to show up until we get into the season because there's so many gems, and this is the main difference between pitchers and hitters. There's more hidden gems among pitchers that come out mid-season, like a Bartolo Colon last year who wasn't on anybody's radar. That happens more with pitchers during the regular season. So
yeah, it's definitely easier to pick up those guys in the outfielders throughout the season than it is to pick up like a shortstop or a second base or third base that gets called up.
Yeah.
Last year, even considering the guys that are already in the major leagues that came out of nowhere and had good years, there's also the call-ups, the guys like Waka and Garrett Cole and Salazar, guys like that are always going to pop up throughout the season.
Yeah, and I guess was Cole Brad too? I feel like
he was. I picked up Garrett Cole, and I can't remember what the trade was, but I eventually traded him to Brad.
Brad just ended up with all these good acquisitions that weren't on the radar come draft time. I don't know how that really makes me feel pretty bad about myself.
So the top 10 pitchers going into the season: Kershaw, Darvish, Wainwright, Strasburg, number 4, Felix, Cliff Lee, Max Scherzer, Jose Fernandez, and Madison Bumgarner. I'm guessing that the one name of that group that stands out to you has got to be Jose Fernandez. Am I right?
I understand why Jose is up there. He was awesome. I just don't think I could see myself paying more for him than a Justin Verlander.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. The guys that are below him are Verlander, Chris Sale, Greinke, and David Price. Verlander in particular really turned it on towards the end of last year. He got his velocity back up. They said there was some kind of mechanical flaw, and he really ended the year strong. And he had been a consensus top 2 pitcher for the last 5 years or so. So I was wondering if you'd be more willing to spend $25 on Verlander or Fernandez.
Yeah, I'll take Verlander for sure. I understand why. I still take Fernandez ahead of Chris Sale, Zach Greinke, but I'd probably move Verlander and probably even David Price up above him.
Yeah, I really like Price. My only thing that I don't like about Price is just that division he's in. I hate AL East pitchers. And speaking of AL East pitchers, I did a mock. I think he has my second mock I've done today, and I saw CC Sabathia get thrown out there, and believe it or not, his average price is for $4. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, his draft price has been falling like the speed on his fastball. I mean, when he got in the spring training game the other day, he didn't throw above 88 miles an hour. He looks good, and the pants fit better, but it's not resulting in the ball getting to the plate any faster. In fact, it's down at least 3 or 4 miles an hour from where it was last year. I mean, obviously we just started, so he might be able to build his arm up, but yeah, because of the name recognition, I'll probably get tempted. But at this point, I'm not really excited about these.
Now, it's no secret that you're a guy that likes the guy that has a more proven track record instead of the up-and-comers that you're counting on their potential. And that works out a lot for you sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't. One of the guys that it did not work out for you last year was kind of the butt of a joke on draft night, if you remember. Because I think Big Ben spent his last, excess money on this guy, and it was Julio Teheran, if I remember right. And it may have not been the guy he
Leonis Martin.
Leonis Martin. Okay, well, he did spend like $4 or $5 on Julio Teheran, and I remember I wanted Teheran at draft night, but I wanted him for $1 or $2. He's ranked 25th now to start the year. Just signed a big contract. They also have Mike Minor there. They're just 2 spots apart. Are those guys that you're willing to spend double digits on?
I don't know. Teheran scares me a little bit. His control isn't.
See, I'm even, I'd have to look more into Teheran, but for Minor, I like what Minor did last year, but if you remember the previous couple of seasons, he really got blown up a lot. I think he had an ERA over 5. I don't know. I just don't know about Minor.
We know Brandon loves him.
Yeah, and I would probably love him too if he was on my team last year.
But yeah, I like Braves pitchers. You always know you got good win potential there, so. I wouldn't be surprised if I ended up with 1 or 2 Braves pitchers, but
Let me ask you this: Medlin.
Either one of these guys get me really excited.
Your boy Chris Medlin is projected to go about 8 spots or so below them. Maybe go for $3 or $4 less in the auction. Would you rather have that value, or would you rather go for the higher upside strikeout guy like Mike Minor or Teheran?
Medlin wasn't terrible. I mean, he had an ERA. Lower than Teheran last year.
He did.
And he did. He was 3.11, and Teheran was 3.20, and Minor was 3.21. It was the whip. He had a 1.22 whip last year. So, I know that the whip is more a true showing of how good you're pitching than ERA. That can be fluky, but, I just can't get out of my mind what Medlin did at the end of the year 2 years ago. I'd probably be more apt to take him at his current value than either one of the other Braves pitchers.
And as we dive into the pitching a little bit more, I know that you probably are on the same side of this as me. I'm staying away from Tanaka just because it's the unknown. I don't know. I mean, I know what the scouting reports have said and everything, but I'd rather go with the more proven player. He's probably going to go for like $15 just because of the hype surrounding him. And we also stayed away from Darvish. That rookie year, I guess it was maybe the right call, but he was awesome last year. Any chance, if you were going to give Tanaka a projection, what would you say his ERA and WHIP was, and maybe it's like a strikeout per 9 innings?
Oh my gosh. Let's say, maybe I'll go 3.2 ERA, 1.1 WHIP, and what was the last question?
Strikeout per 9.
Strikeout per 9. Maybe 8.
It sounds pretty fair. See, it actually sounds like those would be great numbers if he puts those up.
I actually like him. I'm having trouble finding him on the list. Where is he going?
He's actually on the second page, and I think he's projected to go around 32nd or so, right behind Fister.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, I expected him to have a little bit higher O rank. Than he does.
Let's be honest. This is not reflective of how our draft is going to go at all.
He's going to go for more than that. I don't think there's any question about that. But he's ranked above guys like Jared Weaver, Tony Cingrani, Johnny Cueto. I like all 3 of those guys a little bit better than Tanaka. Maybe not Cueto,
right.
But yeah, I think that Yahoo ranked him pretty fairly. But I think he's going to go for more when the auction starts.
I actually think he should be a little bit higher than that. Not too much, but
I'd rather have him than Fister for what it's worth, who's a spot higher.
What was that? I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
I was just saying I'd rather have Tanaka than Fister, who's ranked a spot ahead of him.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You know what Fister is? Fister's solid, but he's not going to win you a championship. Where Tanaka, he's got a little bit more upside.
Yeah, Fister, he's just kind of boring. He gets the job done, doesn't get you really. I don't think I remember him. He's never been a strikeout guy, right? So at least Tanaka's going to beat him in that. I like the upside. It's something I haven't done in the past, but as I looked at some of our, not necessarily league champions, but who has kind of come from nowhere and, had a good season down the stretch, people that, struck gold on guys that weren't ranked high in the season. So I think taking a chance on a rookie like this might just be the sort of thing I need to do to, get back into the playoffs, sadly enough.
Now, I haven't even heard anything about this player in the spring training, so I don't know for sure if he's fully healthy or what the deal is. But I see Dan Herron ranked 55th coming into the season.
Gosh, stay away.
He's on the Dodgers this year, and I know he didn't quite live up to the hype. He had a pretty good strikeout rate. His ERA was at 4.67, a 1.24 WHIP. But who do you like better as a bounce back candidate between him and Giovanni Gallardo?
Oh God, pass.
Not touching either one.
I don't want to touch either of those guys. Herron just the last 2 years has just been so brutal.
Well, let me throw in a third name, Tim Lincecum. All three of those guys rank pretty close to each other. I mean, these guys were all Herron and Lincecum. When they were on the top of their game, they were top 5, top 6 pitchers, and Giovanni Gallardo was a top 15 pitcher, and Michael had him 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, but when Herron and Gallardo are bad, they are bad. And Lincecum, I'm not really excited about it, but he would, assuming they're all going for about the same price, I would be more apt to take Lincecum than either one of those two guys by far.
See, that's interesting. So I guess maybe it's because they're coming off of multiple bad seasons. Maybe that's the reason. See, that seems like kind of the guy that you might take a chance on, but I know you've had these guys in the last year or two, so maybe it's the fact that they burned you. There's another guy really far down the list at 70, I guess he's around 68, 70, something like that. And I know he had an awful season last year, but this year he's in Petco. Josh Johnson. What do you think about him?
It's really been, when I invest in my older guys, my veterans, I really like them to be coming off one bad year. And like you said, those guys that we mentioned, and Josh Johnson included, that's multiple bad years. And I don't know if he's what is the storyline out there? Is it Josh Johnson finally healthy this year? What are people saying about Josh Johnson?
Honestly, I hadn't really heard anything. I know that he's got an ERA of over 6 last year. And, as far as I know, he's healthy, but I wouldn't take that to the bank. I mean, for $1 at the end of a draft, maybe. I don't know what other names would be there, so I can't really say for certainty, but he is ranked above guys like Cologne, Kyle Loesch, John Lackey, who came off a pretty good season, Ivan Nova. So, I mean, there's some decent pitchers that he's ranked above, but he's obviously got the upside that they don't, but he's also has the big downside that they don't as well.
Right. Hey, while we're looking at this third page, I just want to say, Hiroki Kuroda, I don't think he's getting any respect here being on this page.
Yeah, I was looking at his numbers, and I actually thought that he had a little better year than he did.
I did too, actually.
He must have tailed off in the last month of the season or something, because I thought he had a sub-3 ERA. He still had pretty good numbers, and I don't know. I mean, maybe it's the age. I don't really know why he's ranked that low. Maybe people are just willing to take guys that have a higher upside than he does, but he's definitely a solid little pitcher.
That sounds like something that Ed would say. A nice little ballpark. Yeah. No, Kuroda's good. He's never had high speed stuff, but he's always been a solid pitcher, and I thought he was solid last year. Yeah, he had a bad last couple starts where I think he got blown up in like 2 innings. His ERA just got killed one time against the Orioles, and he left after the second inning due to injury. But I like Kuroda. Good chance he ends up on my team for sure.
Okay, let's switch the conversation over to second base. There's a few guys. I think there's going to be a lot of different approaches at second base. It is actually a little deeper this year than in years past, and it's not as quite as top heavy either. Because Cano, I think a lot of people were skeptical about him being on the Mariners, and rightfully so. I think it's fair for me to say that I'm not going to be drafting Cano this year because he's going to go for over $40, and that ballpark, that lineup, I don't think he's going to be as good. And go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, the real question when I look at second base is, you got your top three guys, and then after Kipnis, there's a huge drop-off as far as these Yahoo O ranks. I mean, after Kipnis, you go another 33 picks before you get to another second baseman. I'm just wondering, that seems like, I don't know if Kipnis deserves to be that far ahead of everybody else.
Yeah. I like Kipnis, but you saw
Kip going to Jordan again.
I think he probably is, and I think Little Ben is he was trying to get him from me a lot last year, so I could see him making a play for him. But honestly, I don't think I'm going to be going for any of the guys in the top three. I could see myself going after the Cardinal, being a homer, going after Carpenter, maybe Ian Kinsler. But after besides those two guys in the top 10, there's not a lot of guys that I really like. I don't want Zobrist. I'm not a big Altuve fan. I like Lowry as like a dollar buy, but he's going to go for more than that. And Phillips, I think Phillips is a little underrated down there at 10. I mean, he's coming off of
so low.
He had 100 RBIs last year. I mean, I know he doesn't run like he used to, but come on. I mean, he's better. He's a safer bet than Lowry and Altuve, I think.
I know. I can't believe that he is behind Zobrist and Altuve and Lowry. I mean,
yeah, I'm going to jump on that bandwagon as well.
Yeah, and I think the league still respects him. I think he went for like $14 or something last year, so he's always gone double digits, and he'll probably do the same again this year.
A lot of people were riding the hype on Judd Jerko, 486. Yeah, he could definitely be one of those guys taking him. I could see that. Jerko had 23 home runs last year. He didn't do a whole lot else, but you see the power potential. Any chance you are willing to pay $3 or $4 and take Jerko as your one and only second baseman?
I'm not going to have a Padre on my team this year.
I don't blame you. After what happened with Chase Headley last year, I don't blame you one bit.
Yeah, I mean, if we keep playing fantasy for another 10 years, eventually I'll have been burned by someone on every team. But for now, and then I'll have to give Padres another chance at that point. But for now, no thank you, Padres. No thank you.
So it sounds like you're not too high, kind of like I am for the top guys at second base, and you might be willing to wait. And I think that's probably what I'm going to do if I can't get Carpenter for a price that I want. So
I got to tell you, I'll say one other thing, if I may. I don't know if this sounds goofy, but I kind of like Prado all the way down there as well.
No, I agree with that, and he's one of those guys that seems like every year, he's like an every other year player. Sometimes you'll see a season where he's not even ownable, but that year that he's on, I mean, he normally is going to give you a great batting average and pretty much be a well-rounded player. He might not give you a ton of steals, but I think he even ran a little bit last year. I'd be willing.
He only had 3 steals last year.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe it was the year before.
It was a down year.
Maybe it was the
down year for sure.
Yeah, I'd be willing to take him as a late round pick if I miss out on my top guys for $3 or $4 as my second baseman, though.
Plus, he's got that triple position eligibility, which that plays.
Yeah, that makes for one good player on the bench if you ever pick up another second baseman. You can rotate him in those 3 spots.
Hey, who do I look like, Michael?
Yeah, I know you're not big on carrying the bench hitters.
Yeah.
Let's talk about third base a little bit. I think third base, a lot of people were saying it's a lot shallower this year than normal, but I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I mean, obviously, I think the top, there's a real big top 5 that you got to feel good about. Cabrera is obviously on a tier of his own, but then you got Beltre and Encarnacion, David Wright, and Longoria. I'd feel great about walking out of the draft with any of those 4 guys, and I never thought I would say that about Encarnacion 2 years ago. Then you still got Ryan Zimmerman. I'm going to skip Carpenter because I think he's going to be played at second base. Machado, he's coming off an injury, but he's solid. I mean, I think he'll be ready early on in the season, maybe even for opening day. Alvarez, Pablo Sandoval, Josh Donaldson was great last year. Do you think that I'm just do you agree with me, or do you agree with most of the fantasy analysts out there that third base is a shallow position this year?
Well, I mean, if you sit there and you look at the top 10 list from last year, 9 of the top 10 third basemen finished in the top 100 in the overall ranks last year, and even Donaldson, which is
not in the top 10, was he?
Donaldson, yeah, he finished 31 overall according to the Yahoo ranks, whatever that means to you.
And that's
all these guys had good seasons last year. Pablo's the only guy in the top 11 third baseman who didn't have a really great year, and that was really only because of injury. Otherwise, he was, fairly solid, and apparently he's lost some weight again this year. Will be, but third base. I mean, I feel pretty comfortable with almost any one of these guys, but I'd definitely rather have someone in the top six.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying there. I'm just saying that I don't think it's as shallow as a lot of people are making it out to be. And I would even
no way.
Yeah, I would even feel okay about taking. I wouldn't feel great about it, but I could live with Kyle Seager or Aramis Ramirez. Aramis Ramirez is actually pretty good last year when he was healthy. He hit 12 home runs in half a season. I mean, he would have had over 90 RBIs, and if you extrapolate that out to a full season.
Yeah. Oh, this is by far the best looking list, other than starting pitchers that we've looked at so far.
Yeah, and what do you think about Chase Headley? You think he's going to get drafted this year?
Probably not. I mean, he's way down there. He's like
18th or somewhere around there.
Yeah, I think 18th. Still drafted in 82% leagues so far, but I know it's not important to anybody else but me. But no, I don't know. Maybe someone gives him a shot, but he didn't give much reason for anyone to give him a shot, at least at the beginning of this year.
Now, I know we're kind of just jumping around, and it might be kind of hard to follow, but let's just take a look over at the first baseman now. I think this is probably the deepest position. It's deep. Last year, I actually looked at the first baseman, and I came away not thinking that it was that deep. It turned out I was wrong, but I think there's a lot of good first basemen this year. Obviously, Goldschmidt has been anointed by Yahoo as the cream of the crop. He's ahead of Chris Davis, who I know you just wanted Chris Davis big time all last year. You were just gushing over every time he hit a home run. Any chance that you take Davis over Goldschmidt? Because Goldschmidt's going to go for about $50 or so, I think, and I think Davis could go for closer to 45.
I mean, there's definitely a chance. I mean, you like, when you can get some steals from your first baseman, that's just bonus right there, and that's something that Goldschmidt will give you that pretty much no other first baseman will give you double-digit steals, except for Eric Hosmer, I guess. But I'd probably be more likely to take Davis. I just love his swing. I think Davis is ranked appropriately. I think Goldschmidt 3 just seems that's an awfully high number. Number 3 overall in the draft.
Would you rather have Cargo or Kutch over Goldschmidt, or do you like Goldschmidt over those two guys?
Oh man, off the top of my head, that sounds better to me. Yeah, I would take Kutch ahead of him. But I don't really feel that strongly about it. I just know that Goldschmidt at 3 just sounds like I don't know that he's been around long enough to deserve to be all the way up there, no matter how good his season was last year, and it was a great season.
Now, this guy is arguably the most boring player in all of fantasy. That's actually always a good player. No, I don't think he's that boring. I was actually going to go with Joey Votto. This guy's just so boring, and everybody that's ever owned him has thought that. He's ranked 15th overall. He's probably going to go for, I don't know, $38, something like that. Looking at his numbers last year, obviously over 100 runs, 300 average, but the power numbers were down. Only 24 homers and 73 RBI. That's the lowest he's had in a while, it seems. You think he rebounds in those power numbers, or do you think that he is just willing to take those walks like he did last year, and his numbers are gonna drop as a cause of that?
You never know. It just depends on the pitches that he sees. He's such a smart hitter that he'll only hit what they give him, and if it's not there, he'll take his base and at least contribute with the runs. He did just barely get a shade over 100 runs last year, and still got you your average over 305. But yeah, obviously the power was missing.
Yeah, even
hopefully it was just a fluke.
Yeah, and so the guy ranked right behind him, if we're skipping out on Encarnacion because he's third base eligible, but Prince Fielder, these two guys have always kind of been compared to each other. They're always ranked back-to-back, it seems like, going into the draft. And Fielder is now on the Rangers, which I like a lot better for him. He's still going to be in a great lineup and a better ballpark. I think the big thing you look at when you compare these two players is you're probably going to get a better home run total from Fielder and better RBI for sure from him. and Votto's going to win on the average. So Votto's ranked ahead of him. I'd rather go Fielder than Votto. What do you think?
It's close. It's interesting. It doesn't really look like Fielder was punished in the O-rank department for the year that he had last year. I mean,
Yeah.
Maybe he was somewhere around 10 or 11 last year, and he's dropped to 17 this year. But, that's only 2 picks behind Votto overall. So I thought, going into the year, I really liked Fielder, but I also thought that he would be projected lower than this. So
Yeah, they're definitely buying into the hype for the new ballpark, I think.
I'll say this: I think he's right where he should be. I think I agree with this. I would probably take Votto over him, but I think the risk of sounding stupid. I would probably take him over Encarnacion.
Yeah, it's a tough call. I do want to say that Freddie Freeman is a guy that I've loved the last couple of years, but even I am a little skeptical about how highly he's ranked. And he's ranked 31st. The drafts I've seen him go for, he's going for about $30, and I like him a lot, but I just don't think he's going to get the home runs to justify that rank.
Yeah, I mean, we talked earlier about, and by the way, this bugs me how there's these catchers on the first base list, but I'd probably be more apt to take Posey, actually, than Freddie Freeman.
Whoa, really?
Yeah, and he's going 17 picks below him.
I don't agree with that, but I mean.
Well, just look at this page. Look at the depth at first base. I don't know if I want to pay if I'm going to pay the Freddie Freeman price. I'd rather get another one of these first basemen below, and Alan Craig, and Adrian Gonzalez. Even a Mark Trumbo possibly.
Yeah, I was looking at that. Trumbo is really far down there. I think Trumbo could go for single digits depending on when he gets nominated. And he had 34 home runs last year. I know his average wasn't very good, but he's going to a better hitter's park. And I mean, as much as the Angels struggled last year, you could say that the lineup is pretty much a push with the Diamondbacks and the Angels, considering the year that they had last year. And even further down the list, you got Rizzo, who wasn't great last year, but he's got upside, and Kadire, who was awesome last year when he was healthy. I mean, Kadire was one of the biggest guys that you forget about just how good he was. He finished ranked 35th overall, and he had less than 500 at-bats.
Yeah, and David Ortiz is down there too. Which,
yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I just feel like David Ortiz should be ahead of Albert Pujols.
Yeah, I mean, it's a valid argument, and there's no doubt about that. Ortiz, he's been really good the last couple of years, but he's also shown that he can be really, really bad. That one year that you had him, you traded him for Jose Molina, I believe. So you just never know which form of Ortiz you're going to get. Now, also down the list, Matt Adams, Jose Abreu, Mike Napoli. We've got some interesting names, but the one that I want to ask you about is a guy that you've been a big fan of the last 5 years. Mark Teixeira, bounce-back candidate. He could probably snag him for $1. What do you think about him?
Yeah, I know. It's weird how far the mighty have fallen. The weird thing is I think he's still got a bunch of years left on the deal. So
he's got like 5 left?
I mean, that's crazy. When you look at these stats from last year, 5 runs, 3 homers, 12 RBIs, and a 151 average, there's not really a whole lot to dissect there. But, yes, I'll probably be tempted by Teixeira.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for $1, you can't critique that pick. I mean, he's put up big numbers before, so you might as well take a shot when you're that late in the draft.
But he's not a bad guy to go down there and put in your utility spot. Or if you're a guy like me who somehow didn't end up with the top 15 first baseman like I did last year after draft night, Teixeira is probably a good guy to take a shot in the dark to sneak into the top 10.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm looking at the second page now, and I still see a lot of names that I like, considering they're on the second page. And Ryan Howard, a second page guy. I mean, just because of the upside, I'd take him for $1. And then you got Morneau and playing in Colorado this year. Kendrys Morales, not on a team yet, but these are guys that I have a decent upside that I wouldn't mind taking a shot on to put in my utility spot.
I mean, see that Adam Dunn.
Yeah, Adam Dunn down there, 34 home runs.
I mean, he got his average up a little bit, 219 average, from a little bit up from past year. But yeah, I mean, I don't see many other people on this list that hit over 30 home runs.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think it's time to move on to the outfield position. Because it's just so many players that you can talk about here. So I guess we'll just start at the top of the list. Obviously, Trout, no-brainer, number one at the position. I think the biggest question mark I've got is in the top 10 or so is Bryce Harper being fourth among the outfielder spots. I would rather have Ryan Braun above Bryce Harper and probably Adam Jones as well. What do you think about Bryce Harper this season? Do you think he takes a big step forward?
Well, everyone's just in a hurry to crown this guy, you know? Are they seeing the same stats from last year that I'm seeing? I know he got hurt, but I don't know. He's an exciting guy to watch, but he's just always been. It's a joke that he was compared to Mike Trout.
Yeah.
In the last, I think it was last year and the year before that, they were acting like these guys are doing the same thing. They're not doing the same thing. Trout is in a whole other league. And so, it's just because he's in Washington that Harper's getting all this love. I would not take him fourth. I would definitely take Jones over him. I'd take Braun over him. Ellsbury, I'd probably not. But I could see myself taking Carlos Gomez over him.
Interesting you bring up Gomez's name. He's one of the guys I was going to ask you about. He had a 2040 season last year.
I'm buying it all the way.
You are. So what do you like so much about Gomez?
Puts up numbers in every category. And he's one of those players that when I had him, he never burned me. He actually almost carried my pathetic team from 2 years ago into the playoffs. Only because I wasn't able to, set my lineup the last 2 years. We don't have to go back there.
I think it's time for the Brewers to hit this guy a little bit higher up in the lineup. But I think I read that Segura is probably going to be leading off this year, and Braun's obviously your third hitter. You got Aramis Ramirez and Luke Roy that'll bat in the middle of the lineup. I think Gomez has got to be your number 2 hitter this year. Get him a little bit more chance to score some runs and get that speed on the bases. I could see a lot of double steals with him and Segura this year.
Does that mean he's batting 5th or 6th?
Well, a lot of the season last year he was batting 5th or so, which isn't horrible, but it probably cost him a few at bats over the course of the season.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, I'd definitely be batting him before or after Braun.
So back to back, these are 2 young guys with a lot of hype around them, a lot of power. Stanton, Yasiel Puig. I'm not particularly a big fan of Stanton just because he's been injured so much, and then the roster around him is not good. Which one of those 2 guys would you prefer?
Stanton or Puig?
Yeah.
Man, I hate to say it, but because I've had Stanton before, and I'd go Puig. The only advantage that you would see Stanton having over him would be, homers and RBIs, and he didn't really even do that. But I guess he got hurt last year too. You
also got to take into effect that what Puig did is probably close to his best case scenario.
Yeah, but these are also not full season stats I'm looking at, and he surpassed him in 3 out of the 5 categories, and the 2 that he lost in, they won by much. Yeah, I would take Puig because, like I said, I'm kind of having a switch in my mentality. Obviously, my taking older guys strategy hadn't worked, and I think a lot of people are thinking that Puig might be a knucklehead this year, and he's although he does have an O rank of 27, so I'd say he's getting plenty of respect, but I'd be more likely to take Puig for sure. Batista, I like Batista. I might take Batista more over Puig. I can't help it. I just like Batista. I'm sorry.
Hey, I'm with you. I love Batista, but the problem with Batista and me is that he's been on my team each of the last 2 years and had season-ending injuries, so that's the only reason why I wouldn't take him. But on a per-game basis, he was good again last year.
Well, he hadn't burned me yet. Come on over to Team Brickma. Let's do it.
Yeah. I will say that the guy right behind him, Justin Upton, he's one of my least favorite players in all of fantasy. There's absolutely no way that he will be on my team this year.
He's such a head case. I don't know what to make of this guy.
Yeah.
So hot out of the gates and just ridiculously cold.
The guy just strikes out like crazy. He's kind of like Jay Bruce. Jay Bruce, he puts up numbers at the end of the season, but he'll just drive you crazy if you're watching his at-bats. He'll just have some of the ugliest at-bats you've ever seen. But at the end of the year, he still had 30 and 100 like he does. And, you know, he's a good again last year, too. But, I would actually prefer Bruce over Justin Upton, he's ranked a few spots behind him.
Yeah, I don't think I could disagree with that. Yeah, Bruce always, Bruce isn't exactly consistent through the year, but he always does put up the numbers, like you said. Yeah, I've never had Bruce. I wouldn't mind having him this year.
This guy is probably the most disrespected player in all of fantasy for what he did last year. And if you listen to a podcast like me and you do, this guy never gets any respect, not even while he was hot and putting up the numbers, and especially not during the preseason. But Hunter Pence, he finished the year ranked 9th. He had a 2020 season, 27 home runs, 99 RBIs, a 5-category stud, and he's just getting no respect again this year. He's not even ranked in the he may be at the very back end of the top 20 outfielders. I know that Michael's been a big fan of Pence throughout the years, and Little Ben had him last year and even thought about cutting him pretty late in the season. He got really hot there the last couple months, but
that's right.
So I think Hunter Pence is not getting the respect he deserves. I would rather have Hunter Pence than Cespedes and Marte. Definitely Marte, no doubt about that one.
Yeah, for a guy that finished 9th overall in fantasy last year, you think you could at least get in the top 9 in this position, but apparently he didn't.
It's not like this guy's old. I mean, he's what? I think I heard that he's 31. I mean, I don't get what the red flags are about him.
I think it's just the swing. I think people just get turned off by the swing.
Yeah, I could see that. It is a weird batting stance. You normally don't see your power hitters choke up on the bat.
You're right. This was something I hadn't noticed. I do like him down there. That's for sure. Do you think this? What do you think will happen on draft night? Do you think it'll be closer to what we're thinking, or closer to what Yahoo's thinking?
I think it's going to be closer to what Yahoo's thinking. I think he's going to go for under $15.
Interesting.
So this is the guy that's probably has as many question marks as any, and I'm staying away from him just because the D. Gordon syndrome. I think he's another D. Gordon. Billy Hamilton. He's ranked right in between Will Myers and Jason Hayward, and if all things turn right, he could single-handedly win your team in steals. I mean, he had 19 at-bats last year and had 13 steals.
I was looking at that. Yeah.
I mean, that is unbelievable. He's his all-time record setter in steals, and if he is getting on base at let's say like a 350 on base percentage, which is pretty good, if he could do that, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that he could swipe like 110 bases.
Oh, that would be sweet. I'd love to see that. I mean, this just has Derek written all over it. He took D. Gordon. He had Billy Hamilton last year. I don't think he had a problem. Hey, and I think he didn't have a problem starting him even when he wasn't starting games, right?
You're right. He picked him up very early, and I can't remember if he was on the final roster or not, but he was definitely on Derek's team for a few weeks at the end of the season when he wasn't even starting games, and he's just being used as a pinch runner off the bench.
Yeah, it says Derek written all over it. It's probably not for me, but I definitely don't blame someone for picking him up at a 7th round type level.
Now, I'm going down to the second page here, and I see a few guys that I like at the outfield on the second page, guys that I would even prefer over Billy Hamilton, who are going to go much cheaper. And the first guy I got to ask you about, and I don't think I'm going to be in on him, is Josh Hamilton. I mean, Hamilton, he ended up hitting 250 last year. He kind of salvaged the season a little bit. And that was kind of the worst case scenario. I mean, he could go for he could go for $10.
I'm in at a 9th round price.
Yeah.
On Hamilton, I am so freaking in. One bet. I mean, do we forget what he did 2 years ago? I mean, my goodness gracious. I don't want to sell him too hard, but yeah, I'm buying.
Yeah, so I think he had like 43 home runs just 2 years ago. He bulked back up. I don't know if you've seen that or not. Apparently he lost like 30 pounds going into last year. He says he's gained that weight back. I don't know how much that matters or not, but
It doesn't. I mean, it's not like he steals like 5, 6, 7 bases a year. So, okay, so you lose, half of those steals. Big whoop.
Yeah, I do want to say a couple guys that I like that are on the second page that are going as third.
Let me just say this about Hamilton. He's got the every other year thing going on for a while, and even his bad years of every other year, they weren't completely tragic. They just weren't the price that you paid for him. Well, now he is at an even lower point than in 2008 when I drafted him in the 7th round. So I just think this is an overreaction to what happened last year, big time.
Yeah, well, obviously, I mean, he's got potential to be a top 5 player if everything clicks. Yeah, that's ridiculous. I'm sorry. Actually, man, look at Alex Gordon's stats. They're not that bad, but
they're not bad. But it's Alex Gordon.
Yeah.
Talk about. I mean, just 10 seconds we've been talking about him, I already want to take a nap. I mean, I just can't believe this.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You've been trying to move on for about 5 minutes. Right?
Yeah, I already want to slit my throat talking about Alex Gordon. So a couple other guys I like on this list: Beltran, Jason Worth. Yeah, they're old; they're over 35 or whatever, but they had good seasons last year. I think they're going to be pretty good again this year.
Yeah, that sounds right up my alley.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be willing to ride one of those guys as my third outfielder for sure.
An old guy, he's a Yankee. He is right up my alley. No question. And he's just barely there. He just barely makes the cut as far as double-digit O rank. So I think he's a good candidate to join this team.
Now, these two guys are also over 30, and they're guys that you've had interest in the past. I'm just wondering which one you like better. Alfonso Soriano, who was ranked 27th last year, or a guy that's coming off a kind of an injury-plagued season, Carl Crawford.
Oh, man. Tugging at the heartstrings.
Carl Crawford. What did he go that first year, 2nd or 3rd overall in the snake draft? Something like that?
No, he went. I swiped him actually in the 2nd round.
Oh, really?
Now,
it must have been the following year that had him that high or something.
Yeah, probably. And the first year, ESPN had him projected 8th overall, and I somehow got him in the 2nd round. Man, things have just. I mean, only 85% out, and that breaks my heart. I mean, I love Crawford. I feel like. I apologize. I got someone calling. Is it beeping in?
I don't think so.
Okay, good. Man, Soriano is so up and down, but I think I'd be more likely to. Oh, I don't know. What do you think?
I'd take Soriano. I mean, I'm always more willing to take a guy that's coming off of a good year when you're comparing the two. And I think that's Soriano. Right. I'm not so sure that Soriano doesn't have a higher upside at this point of his career.
You might be right. Soriano's the right answer.
Soriano even stole a lot of bases last year, if I remember right.
18, yeah.
So I know Crawford says he wants to get back to stealing 40 bases a year, but he's not going to bring you the power to go along with that Soriano can.
Yeah, well, I want to date Jennifer Aniston, but it's not going to happen, you know. Soriano's the right answer as much as I have a personal affection for Crawford. Soriano's the right answer, no doubt.
Yeah, well, I think we've pretty much touched on all the positions, except for relief pitcher, which is kind of boring. And let's be honest, we don't want to give away any closer information if people come to the draft unprepared. So.
Absolutely, you know there's going to be one of those. What was it that Adam did last year, where he did he draft Casey Janssen thinking he was Kenley Janssen thinking he was Casey Janssen or something?
Yeah, he did. Either that or he didn't know that Brandon League was the closer at the time.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't really get into shortstop, did we? Or did we? I don't remember now.
We can talk about it for a little bit. We kind of touched on it when I just asked you about your strategy, if you're going to take a top shortstop or not, but we didn't really dive into it much. So, talk a little bit more about it. You know, we know the big names at the top: Hanley, Tulo, Reyes, and Segura, and Desmond are the big top 5. After that, it gets ugly, and it gets ugly pretty fast. But you know, there are some decent players towards the end. Asdrubal Cabrera's had a big season before, although he wasn't very good last year, and a lot of people are still high on Starlin Castro or Everth Cabrera. J.J. Hardy always seems to go undervalued. So, you know, for me, I think this is a year where I'm going to try to get one of the top shortstops if I can get him for the right price. If not, then I might fall back and try to hit Everth Cabrera or J.J. Hardy, something like that. Maybe even Jimmy Rollins, who's pretty far down the list.
Yeah, Jimmy Rollins, he is down there. Yeah, this is the ugliest position, right?
I think so.
Anytime you got, I don't know. There's just when you compare the third baseman we looked at, 9 of the top 10 finished inside the top 100 overall. In shortstop, he only had 5.
Yeah, and zero in top 0 finished under the top 50.
Yeah, and then actually, yeah, that's a good point. I didn't break it down as far as I should have. Elvis Andrus, when is this guy going to get out of the top 10? I mean,
man, I was thinking that, and then I looked at his rank last year and saw 54 next to it, and I was pretty surprised.
Yeah, the runs are off. He actually has more runs than anybody else, any other shortstop on this list.
That's a good point.
He might have had more runs than any shortstop. Yeah, he must have had the most runs of any shortstop in baseball last year.
And he had the most steals, or actually he had
the most steals.
No.
I'll shut up. Maybe I was wrong.
Segura and Cabrera he got suspended, or he would have had more, but still 40 bases. That's pretty rare to find.
Yeah, and this is a guy whose steals had actually gone down the 2 years prior to that. So it is good to see that back. I guess I'll just take back what I just said, I guess.
He's just boring. He's one of those guys that's boring to me because he doesn't hit home runs. But yeah, he looking back on it, he was kind of I guess he was undervalued based on what I had thought. Any shortstops outside the top 12 or so that you like?
Not really. I mean,
what about Jeter?
Profile would be interesting, but isn't he batting 9th?
Yeah, that's my fear. Is I think Sin Chu is going to bat first, and then Andrews second. So I think he's going to get pushed down to the bottom of the lineup, if I had to guess.
I don't mean to be weird, but this is going to be random. Jonathan VR.
Hey, he can run.
I was forced to watch a bunch of Astros games last year because I had Jose Barrett for me closing and Jose Altuve, and yeah, every time I watched VR, it seemed like he was doing something good. I mean, there's nothing really that great about his stats here, but hey, what about Castro? Bounce back here?
I've never been a big Castro fan. It seems like he goes overvalued every draft I've done the last couple of years, and I'm not that interested in him.
I guess I can't blame you on that. I just don't know what Anderson Simmons is doing at, like, is it 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9? He's at 11. I mean, could you imagine actually taking this guy ahead of
no.
Cabrera or J.J. Hardy or Jimmy Rollins?
I certainly would rather have Rollins and probably Hardy as well. If I had to pick a real late shortstop, say my starter gets hurt or something, and there's a guy I'm looking at the waiver wire the first couple of weeks, I wouldn't mind taking a chance on maybe Xander Bogaerts. Maybe.
Good point. Forgot about Bogaerts.
I kind of like, depending on where he bats in the lineup, I wouldn't be that opposed to taking a shot on Peralta or Brad Miller. Peralta, I think he's going to probably bat around 6th or 7th, and the chance that he gets moved up and hits second in the lineup, that'd be huge for him. Because that Cardinals can, obviously drive in the runs, and I don't know if you saw or not, but he had his first 2 at bats with the Cardinals in spring training today. Both of them solo homers.
Really? Okay, I did not see that.
Off of Drew Smiley, so it wasn't just like some AAA pitcher, a decent pitcher.
Okay. I'm going to bring it up, and it's probably pointless, but should Derek Jeter really be number 23 among shortstops?
I don't know. It depends what you're talking about. I don't know. At this point, I don't even think it really matters to factor in the injury risk because you're just hoping for a home run. And if you look at Jeter, I think, what was it, 2 years ago? Didn't he lead the league in hits or something like that just 2 years ago? 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So I know he's coming off a lot of injuries and he's maybe rusty or something, but I think his upside is definitely better than that of Eric Ibar or Escobar, somebody like that.
Yeah.
So, if you wanted to take it for $1, I'd probably laugh a little bit inside, but it wouldn't be the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
Why is Derek Jeter ranked behind Brad Miller?
I kind of like Brad Miller, to be honest. I think he does a little bit.
Which do you like more, the 8 homers or the 5 steals?
Well, he only played like half a season or something.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I just have a hard time looking at this. If Jeter really is healthy, and by the way, he's going to be $1 pick if it works out great. If not, it's not like you spend any money on him. But
yeah, that's true.
23 just seems disrespectful.
And I'm looking at Jeter now. In 2012, his last full season, 99 runs, 15 home runs, .316 average, 9 steals, 58 RBI. So he definitely had a very good season. Probably finished in the top 5 at the position, I would think.
I think he's draftable. I might be crazy, but I think he should be drafted. I don't think he should be number 23 among shortstops.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody, I don't think anybody would do this, but if somebody were going to spend $5 on Andrelton Simmons, or where you could get Jeter for a buck at the end, I'd definitely take Jeter over Simmons.
Oh yeah, for sure. You never know. I was the guy that spent 10 on Jeter last year, I think.
So this podcast is, yeah. Let's see. This podcast is now at the hour mark. Anything that you would like to say, or any input you'd like to give before we get off the phone?
Well, I guess I apologize to everyone. I've been a little inactive on the board. Don't worry, I'm like a bear. I'm in hibernation right now, but I'm about to come out with a freaking vengeance, and you're all gonna wish that I had stayed quiet. And I'm sure it's about to get annoying. Are you still? Did you give the commissionership back to Nick, or?
Yeah, he's got the power back.
Okay, thank goodness, because we all know if you kept it, I'd be suspended within a couple of weeks, probably. So.
Well, you know.
I know. You did like that joke as much as the one player, but I'm looking forward to the season. I'm looking forward to draft night. I'm hoping we get to see Big Ben for the whole thing, and I think it's going to be a good season. Little Ben, just keep interest. Just everyone, please keep interest. I want to make the playoffs again, but not at the expense of other people becoming disinterested. So let's have a great season.
And the final question of the night, and I do not want any dancing around. I don't want you giving me the answer you think people want to hear. I want honesty. I want what you honestly feel in your heart is the right answer to this question. What place are you going to finish?
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to bring up something weird. All right.
No. I don't want you playing this game where you're trying to be political and give the right answer and try to play Mr. Nice Guy. What do you think you're going to finish? And who do you think you're going to finish above? Would be a nice part to that question as well.
Okay, if you ask me truly what I think. I got doubt creeping in. The first number that came to mind was 5th.
Was what?
Was 5th.
Oh, I thought you said 10th. Okay, 5th.
5th. So, I'm talking 5th. I'm talking behind you, behind Nick, behind the Michael Jordan combination, and behind Little Ben.
Okay, so your usual suspects. Now, I know that the one person that is probably going to listen to this podcast in its entirety is Derek. He won the title last year. No respect for Derek.
Okay, you know what?
No, I mean, I want your honest opinion. If you feel that, just tell me, yeah, that's what I believe.
No, I honestly don't. I forget about it. Derek's so freaking quiet that you forget about him sometimes. So, I actually will move myself back to 6th, I guess, and put Derek above me.
So you don't.
And then.
Wow.
Man, I mean, what are you talking about? This would be my best result in in the last 7 fantasy leagues you've been in.
I don't know. I just feel like you're not giving me an honest answer because last year you were like, "Come on, you know that there's a 75% chance me or you is going to win the title this year." I think you said, I don't know if that's the number you threw out, but me and you both were overly confident about our chances going into the season.
Look, alright, my confidence has shrank. What can I tell you? I mean, what reason would I have to still have a big ego, you know?
Alright, well, fair enough.
It's kind of like Ben with his attitude toward girls, you know?
So it sounds like you are giving respect out to the 5 you mentioned, and you're giving no respect, am I right? No respect to Brandon, Big Ben, Brad, and Adam. Is that correct?
You know, Brad has his moments, but they are very far between. Brandon, yeah, sorry. Cespedes, Carlos Zambrano. I'm sorry, buddy. Big Ben, he usually, when he is participating, he's usually doing it well. The problem is he just doesn't do it long enough. So, Big Ben, I could see me and him fighting it. And wouldn't it be great if it came down to the last few weeks of the season and me and Big Ben were fighting it out for a 6 seed? I could definitely see that scenario.
All right, well, I think we've been doing this long enough. I'll let you get back to playing your Olympics 2010 game that you just bought from Game Exchange.
That was a mistake. That was a waste of $5 I'll never see again. It was fun for like a day, but now that the Olympics are over, it's whatever. Do you assume you'll be top two? I mean, it's not exactly like you had the greatest regular season last year.
No, I didn't. It took a minor miracle for me to sneak in towards the end of the season. If I had to guess, I'd say third. I don't know, something like that. I'm gonna be gunning for a bye. That's my goal, is to get a bye.
It's always a goal.
So we'll see what happens. I'm definitely gonna try to be a little bit more careful with my pickups, so I don't run out with 3 weeks to go. All right, man. Well, thanks for doing this, and I don't know if we're gonna sneak in another one or not, but the draft is less than 2 weeks away, so you better get on your first mock and enjoy the voice tonight. Starts in 9 minutes.
Oh, I can't. I'm looking forward to it. Good